Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something genuinely exciting. We are essentially undertaking a scientific unearthing of a hidden computational layer beneath a legal system that, honestly, we all thought we understood perfectly. For centuries, legal reasoning has been described in remarkably simple terms, right? The application of law to facts. We're taught to view the law as this grand sorting mechanism that just spits out a binary result. Something is either legal or it's illegal. But what if that traditional assumption is actually missing the most important part of the entire process? What if there's an underlying mathematical architecture, a hidden computational process that happens before legal reasoning even officially begins? Today, we're exploring a groundbreaking framework which suggests that legal intelligence isn't about knowing the final answer. It's about understanding exactly how reality becomes capable of receiving an answer in the first place. For anyone working in law, governance, or AI, this is going to completely shift the paradigm of how we understand system logic. So think about the classical model of law. It's wonderfully elegant. It's pure binary code, +1 for legal, -1 for illegal. But the moment we look closer, we immediately encounter a massive anomaly. Take a perfectly ordinary factual event. For example, a person just sitting on a park bench. Does that event instantly fit into the +1 or -1 category? Well, no. The legal value of that event is actually a giant question mark. There's a massive computational gap here because a factual event in its raw physical state doesn't instantly fit either value. The classical binary model only appears complete because it kicks in after the decisive computational step has already taken place. And this anomaly leads us directly to the discovery of a missing state, 0. Now, 0 in this context is absolutely not a legal conclusion. It isn't a void, and it certainly doesn't mean something is legally approved. Instead, 0 is a pre-interpretive computational state. It's this neutral testing ground where all premature legal meaning gets totally stripped away. Before we can ever assign that +1 or -1, all our legal assumptions must first be cleansed and tested. It is a moment where the system essentially pauses and asks, hey, before we judge this, do we even have the right lens to look at it? This fundamentally changes how we view every action we take and how systems assess our shared reality.
Let's start building this new computational formula together to actually answer that question. It begins with our very first variable, the event, which we'll represent with the letter E. An event is a factually dense but legally unmarked occurrence in reality. It exists physically in all of its complex, messy detail before it ever becomes legally meaningful. Our person sitting on the bench, that's a physical reality. The chronological sequence of events is fixed. But at this early stage, the legal reality hasn't even been born yet. The event is just waiting for a framework to process it.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is our second and perhaps most transformative variable, the legal program, or PA. A legal program is a coherent interpretive framework. Think of major branches like public law, national security law, or contract law. This variable is absolutely crucial because it doesn't alter the physical facts one bit. The person is still just sitting on the bench. But the legal program completely changes the questions we ask about those facts. It dictates exactly which details become legally relevant, which ones get ignored, and which normative objectives guide the whole analysis. Basically, reality is being prepared for legal meaning. When we process that raw event through a specific legal program, we generate our third variable, legal interpretation, or I. And this proves something wild, that the exact same physical reality can generate entirely different legal realities. Imagine a solicitor remaining in a controlled military area after being asked to leave. If we process that event through a national security program, it's a clear breach of site security. But what if we process the exact same physical event through a public law program? Suddenly, the interpretation might be about the enforcement of an undisclosed administrative restriction without procedural fairness. The physical reality remained completely constant. Only the interpretive function changed. This interpretation then generates our fourth variable, legal valence, represented by L. Valence is simply the legal direction of the event. An L greater than 0 pushes toward legal justification. An L less than 0 pushes toward unlawfulness. But here is the most profound part of this entire mathematical model. If a legal program returns a valence of exactly 0, it simply lacks interpretive competence over the facts. If you try to apply company law to our solicitor on the military base, it doesn't make her actions legal or illegal, it just returns 0. That specific program has literally 0 jurisdiction over that specific reality. Okay, let's dive into this. When we assemble these variables, we reveal a complete, cascading mathematical architecture that fundamentally replaces that flawed binary model. We don't just start with a binary legal or illegal outcome. A factual event has to first enter a selected legal program. That program transforms it into a legally meaningful interpretation. And only then does that interpretation produce a legal valence. You see, the binary code of lawful versus unlawful isn't being rejected by this model. It's simply relocated. It's the final compression at the very end of a much longer, highly structured cognitive process.
To see how vital this is in the real world, let's look at a famous historical example. When the authorities were trying to bring down Al Capone, they repeatedly tried to process his reality through a violent crime program. But that program produced insufficient legal traction. The valence just wasn't there. So what changed? Well, they didn't magically discover a new underlying physical reality. They simply selected a different legal program, the tax program. Through that specific computational lens, the exact same reality suddenly became a legally actionable, legally decisive event. This perfectly illustrates the difference between a physical event and a legal event.
And this brilliantly illustrates a fascinating truth. A lawsuit is actually not just a disagreement over raw facts. It is a highly adversarial clash between two competing structural systems of legal meaning. The claimant brings their version of the event and runs it through their chosen legal program to generate a valence. Meanwhile, the defendant brings their version of the event and runs it through an entirely different legal program to generate a competing valence. They are literally constructing two different legal realities from the exact same physical world.
Which brings us to the ultimate variable in our architecture, the judicial function, or J. Now, the judge is not merely a referee on the field, just deciding if a specific action is a +1 or a -1. The judge actually operates on a meta level, hovering above these competing legal architectures. The judicial function is to compare the claimant's entire program chain against the defendant's entire program chain and decide which system possesses true interpretive competence. The court doesn't just decide the answer, it decides which legal program is legally authorized to generate the answer in the first place. So the crucial point is that this architectural model completely redefines the role of technology in this space. If law is fundamentally about program selection, then the true purpose of artificial intelligence is vastly more profound than just drafting documents or summarizing old cases. AI is the ultimate engine for legal program simulation. Before human reasoning even officially begins, an AI can simulate hundreds of competing legal programs against a single factual event. It can instantly map out interpretive competence, evidential sufficiency, procedural compatibility, and strategic coherence. It calculates the very architecture within which legal arguments become possible. Which brings us to our final provocative thought. If legal intelligence is no longer just the ability to generate a legal answer, but rather the ability to identify, construct, and optimize the architecture through which reality becomes capable of receiving an answer, what exactly does the lawyer of the future look like? As AI masters the simulation of these competing legal realities, the most vital human skill won't be retrieving rules, but architecting the systems themselves. It challenges everything we know about computational cognition and the very fabric of the law. Thank you so much for joining this explainer.